Welcome, and thank you for joining us for our college planning webinar. My name is Jill Rothenberger, and I'm the VP of Consumer Lending for Dupaco, and I will be the moderator for the webinar. Joining me to present the webinar is Denise Burmeister with CU Student Choice. Dupaco has partnered with CU Student Choice to meet our members' needs for funding the cost of higher education through Dupaco's Extra Credit Student Loan. As Dupaco is a member-owned credit union, our unique cooperative structure means that Dupaco operates in your best interest. Our goal is to provide our members with financial education to help them make better financial decisions. Providing this education to our members is important to Dupaco, especially on the topic of funding post-secondary education. This can be one of the biggest financial decisions a student makes, and we want to make sure you have all the information and tools necessary to make smart financial decisions and keep your debt as low as possible. Before we get started, I would like to cover just a couple of housekeeping items. As a courtesy to all attendees, we will keep all phone lines muted during the webinar. Please know that you can ask questions during the webinar by using the questions box on the webinar toolbar. We will be holding a Q&A after the presentation so Denise can address any questions you submitted. And now I will turn it over to Denise.
Thank you so much, Jill. I'm really excited to be here. We know that the process of financial aid funding college can be a bit daunting, so we're going to give some light to the subject today, and I look forward to your questions after the presentation. So these are some of the things that your student can be doing even before they get to high school, thinking about the extracurricular activities with which they're involved. They want to make sure that those are going to be relevant towards any degree that they might be pursuing in the future and what opportunities those might afford to get some of the private scholarships that we're going to talk about a little bit later in the presentation. But it's really important to start focusing even before that freshman year of high school to really get ready and make sure that the courses you select even at the start of your high school career are going to be advantageous to you for getting into the college that you want to attend and getting as much free money, scholarships, and grants as possible. One of the other things that you really want to consider is to start saving now. Even if your student is entering high school, any money that you're able to put aside at this point will save you in the long run because you're not going to have to finance that bit of money that you've set aside and saved, and that's going to save you long-term interest charges and other expenses. So think about those good study habits as an investment for the college career. So things really start to get busy during the junior year. This is when your student's going to be taking those ACTs, SATs. Just like you're doing now, continue to attend as many financial aid nights or college preparation seminars that you have access to, because you'll glean a little bit from each of those that you attend, and what you pick up at one will start to make more sense at the next one that you're going to attend. So I encourage you to continue to attend these sorts of events. The other things you want to start thinking about while you're still saving money, remember that's the underlying theme here, is to think about what investments you want to make. For example, those college prep courses. You're going to look at how much is the college prep course going to cost in comparison to what will the result from this be. Will I have an additional 1 or 2 points on my ACT score, and what type of scholarships might that put that student into contention for? So yes, it may be an upfront cost, but if you're able to get an additional $2,000 in scholarship money multiplied by 4 years, that's $8,000 in return. So think of it in those terms. The other thing I want to be sure and highlight for you here is that if you're thinking about the Super Bowl, you should be thinking about College Goal Sunday. So when Super Bowl is happening, this is the time that many financial aid offices across the country are going to host a financial aid awareness day, and they can actually help you fill out your free application for federal student aid, listed here as the FAFSA, in the senior year. So take advantage. Those financial aid professionals are going to be available. They'll walk you through, answer questions that you may have. So remember, when it's Super Bowl time, it's College Goal Sunday time, and you want to make sure and use those resources that are available out in the community. You can also visit any of your local college or university websites, and if they're hosting, they'll be sure and advertise that on their sites as well. So some, words of caution here. Make sure that your student does stay focused. We're going to look at some of the criteria that college admissions officers look at when they're deciding on who's going to be admitted, who maybe gets the wait list, and who might not be able to attend that university. So I'm sure you're already talking to your student about this type of information, but just keep in mind the college that your student is going to attend wants to know that they're the same student that they admitted at the end of that junior year. So during your senior year, they really should stay focused. The other thing is, I wanted to highlight for you there that second bullet point, commit to an internship. If your student has any ability to work as an intern in the field that they're interested in studying while they're in school, absolutely take advantage of that. I had a student who really knew that she wanted to be a nurse, and so she started to volunteer at her local hospital, and she quickly found out that most nurses work a 12-hour shift, and she said, there's no way I'm going to work a 12-hour shift. I don't think this is the career for me. So really exploring, getting some hands-on experience, internships, those can be invaluable in really narrowing down your choices for major and what you're going to be studying. So let's talk about the big item that we really want everyone to focus on. And it should be a focus not only throughout high school, but as you continue on throughout college. So scholarships are those bits of financial aid that do not have to be repaid. So this is what we affectionately call the free money. So you want to get as much free money as you possibly can. Scholarships can be awarded for a variety of reasons. The most common are academic or sports scholarships. I have a friend, she went to the University of Tulsa for 4 years, total free ride because she played viola. And she played at every honor society reception, every university president's reception. So they really utilized her skill, but in turn, she got a full 4-year ride for playing viola. So don't discount anything. If your student has an interest, a hobby, a skill, research what scholarships might be available for that purpose. And you say to yourself, well, okay, great. Well, how exactly am I going to research which scholarships are available? The online search engines listed here, FastWeb, FinAid.org, and College Board, these are the premier scholarship sites. So your student can go to these sites, register, complete a profile about themselves, and then the scholarship site will identify scholarships for which they may be eligible or interested. So for example, as a student, I might go online and say, yes, I want to go to University of Missouri. I want to be an engineer. My hobbies are softball, and I'm a member of the 4-H club. Well, then the system will identify, hey, there's a scholarship available for anyone who's participated in 4-H during high school. Would you like to learn more? They'll get a link. They click on the link, find out the criteria for that scholarship, and then can apply for that and see if possibly they get awarded. The other thing I want to really emphasize to you in scholarship searches, as well as not giving up, searching all through your 4 years of college, is to apply for those smaller scholarships. We have lots of students that say, oh, it's only $250 or it's only $500. I'm going to have to write a 2-page paper. I just don't know if it's worth the time and energy. Think of it this way. If that student spends 2 hours to write a 2-page paper and they get a $500 scholarship, that's $250 an hour. That's way more than they're going to make at a part-time job. So the time commitment is definitely worth the reward. I will say there's a scholarship out there for everyone. There's one even for students with a grade point average of C. So, find the one that's right for your student and make sure they apply. Some scholarship tips. So what do we hear from scholarship committees? The first thing they do is when they have a lot of applicants, they weed out anyone who did not follow the instructions. So if the instructions for the scholarship say your application should be completed in 12-point font, you must complete it in 12-point font. They're going to eliminate people who turn in something in 14 or 10-point font. That's an easy way to eliminate candidates when they know they're going to have a lot of applicants. So do follow all instructions. You want to be sure and use reference letters. Reach out to those people that know your student and can speak to their skills, their abilities, their work ethic, and make sure that you help that person who's going to be writing your reference letter get a full picture of you. So for example, you might have a coach that your student works with, and they know how hard they work on the field. They know that they're dedicated to being on time to practices, but they may not know that your student won at the science fair last year and that they're also very skilled in a particular area of science. So you want to make sure that you make them aware of that, so when they do write those reference letters, the scholarship committee gets a full picture of your student. The last item here I want to highlight, which is sort of sad, please be aware of scams. You should never have to pay a service to get a scholarship. Unfortunately, there are lots of scam sites. A very popular one says, pay us $250 and we guarantee that we will find 10 scholarships that you're eligible for. And essentially they go out, they do a Google search, they find 10 scholarships, print them off, and mail them to you. And you know very well that you could have done that for free. So please just be careful. There are lots of scams. If you're promised that you're going to get more aid or you're guaranteed a scholarship, your warning flag should be going up. So some other things that you want to make sure that you're doing as you're looking for that free money is to take advantage of any aid within your state. So many states have state-based scholarships, programs that are only available to students who will be attending a state college or university. So find out, go to the Department of Education website, find out what is available, the deadlines, so you make sure and meet those, so that you can take advantage, because that could be a significant source of free money for your student. And then that, again, cautionary tale about applying for too few scholarships. You want to make sure you meet all of the deadlines. That's important. And then, dropping off your search as time goes by. There are many scholarships where the committee is looking for people to award those. I have an example of one of our local Rotary clubs offered a $500 scholarship for any student that would come and give a 2 to 3 minute speech on what service above self means to them, because that's the Rotary motto. For 4 years running, they had exactly one applicant. So it was a guaranteed win, a guaranteed $500 for the student who came, attended a nice lunch, got a free lunch, and a $500 scholarship. Last year, woohoo, they actually had 3 applicants. They were overjoyed. So rather than awarding just a single $500 scholarship, they raised funds, and so they gave scholarships to all 3 of the people that applied and gave a speech. So please don't lose hope. Get out there, find those scholarships, and take the initiative. My other recommendation to you would be to create a boilerplate, so some basic information about your student, their interests, what they're going to pursue career-wise, and then you can just tweak that to fit the criteria for many scholarships. So you don't have to start from scratch each time. Get together some of that basic information, and then you can manipulate it and make it work for multiple situations and scholarships. So let's talk now about how to choose a college, because this can be important, and it also is going to be a determining factor in how much aid you're going to need, how much scholarship money you're going to need. So these are some of the major pieces that you want to make sure that you're taking into consideration. Number one, is this university accredited? If you attend a non-accredited university, chances are that those credits will not transfer to any other institution you may want to attend. Or if you graduate with a bachelor's from an unaccredited university, when you want to go pursue a master's, they may not even recognize that you did all of that work. So don't waste your time, energy, and effort. Make sure you're going to be going to a reputable university. We're also going to be sure and find out about their financial aid resources, their admission requirements. Do they offer the types of programs that I'm interested in? So if you want to be an engineer, do some search about what are the best schools for engineering. Or if you want to be a radiologist, find out which universities have the best pre-med programs. Do some research on the front end and kind of narrow down your search, which will help. And then we're going to take a look at a resource that's available to you through the U.S. National Center for Education Statistics, so you can do some real comparisons between those colleges that you've kind of narrowed your search to. So this is available through the website listed here. The National Center for Education Statistics maintains this. Almost every university that you might be considering is listed here. You can go to this web address and start doing these research checks on your own. So this is the type of information that you're going to find. A, are they accredited? How much is it going to go to cost to go to school there? Some of those financial aid statistics. Many students don't think about crime statistics, but I know as a parent I would be very concerned about crime statistics for that campus. So you can look to see some of the information available on those colleges that you're considering. You really want to focus in on those graduation rates, because graduation is the #1 predictor for repayment success for any student loans you have to take out. And it also helps to, help secure employment when your student has graduated. But it's been shown over and over, a student that has a bachelor's degree, even if they do become unemployed, their time being unemployed is less than half of someone that does not have that college degree. So you want to look at, are these colleges that we're considering really working to make sure the student gets to the finish line and graduates? So I've listed here some information for the University of Iowa. This is one that might be, on a list that your student is considering. So you can see there's general information about the level of degrees that are awarded. There are links to many of the offices that you might want to get more information about. Right from this website, you can do that. One of the things you want to look at too is this college a good fit for my student? So we see a student to faculty ratio of 15 to 1. That's excellent. But you also see that for undergraduate students, they're over 23,000. So most likely, some of those general education courses, the freshman year, even your sophomore year, those might be hosted in a big auditorium where you're going to be with 200 or 300 other students. Is your student the type that's going to get up on their own and go to class, even if the professor is not taking attendance? Because in a group of 200 or 300, who's going to know that I didn't turn up for my general English literature class? So those are the kinds of things that you want to think about as you look at this type of information, how it relates to your student. This is extremely important as well as the family considers what might work best for them. This is for the University of Iowa, their estimated expenses. And this is great because it shows you not just the current academic year, but you can see the previous years. You can see, are they on track for a lot of increases? Have the costs remained relatively the same? The other big factor here is you can see an in-state student, their tuition and fees are just over $8,000. If you're coming from out of state, that increases to $28,000, so a significant difference in cost. The other thing that's oftentimes a little bit of sticker shock for families is that, okay, I'm in-state, my tuition and fees are $8,575, but bing, 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 room and board is over $10,000. So you want to look at those other factors that don't necessarily come right to the top of mind, such as, cost for room and board. So we know what the college is going to cost us. What kind of aid could I potentially get? So the site is going to also show you statistics for financial aid awarded. So you can see that 86% of students received some type of aid, and good news, of that, 77% received some type of grant or scholarship. And then you can see the types of grants awarded, but this is where those state deadlines that we just talked about previously, or your institutional deadlines, are going to come into play. Institutional grants or scholarships, 65% of students receive that. So that tells you this school has some additional funds that can be awarded. So you want to find out, what are the deadlines for that? What is the criteria for that? So you make sure that you're in that pool of candidates that could be getting some of that institutional money. And then you can see the percentage receiving loans as well. So do your research. Once you have your top 3 schools, do a side-by-side comparison and look at, okay, this is what I'm potentially going to receive. This is what it's going to cost. What's going to be the best fit. My motto is, if you have multiple schools that you're considering and you're really torn about which is going to be best, go to the cheaper one. All right, so once you're ready to apply, you've kind of narrowed it down to those top 3 or 5. You're going to want to apply, because applying to the university does a couple of things. First, it lets them know that you're interested, but also that means that you can send your financial information from the FAFSA to that school so that they can build an award letter for you. And then you'll have more specifics about what your family would receive in aid from that school. One thing I would encourage everyone to do, if at all possible, is go for a campus tour, because you'll learn a lot about that school on the tour that you wouldn't otherwise know. So one of my colleagues, she went to school at Marshall University. She had no idea that a significant portion of their population commutes to campus. So she was at home in the dorms by herself quite frequently. So those are the things that you're going to learn when you go on that campus tour. The other thing is, if you go on a campus tour, they're more than likely going to hand you an application waiver. So when you apply, many universities are going to charge a fee for you to apply. So you can request a waiver. Usually they'll give them out when you do your campus tour. If you're not able to do the campus tour, or if they've not offered one, call and ask. It does not hurt anything, and you could potentially save yourself $50 to $75 by getting that waiver. So be sure and ask for it. So admissions counselors tell us, this is from the National Association of College Admissions Counselors, and they tell us that the #1 criteria that they're looking for is how rigorous was that high school academic career. Did they choose the courses that are going to set them up for success in college? Did they choose the more difficult, challenging courses to get prepared for the college level coursework? So that's 1 and 2 on their list. Big priority for them. Next, they're going to look at test scores. So you may have a student that has taken a really rigorous course load that has a 3.7, and then you might have someone with a 4.0, but they took less challenging courses. The college admissions officer is going to look at that 3.7 more favorably than the 4.0 if the coursework was not as rigorous. So keep that in mind. Your test scores, again, if you feel like you could, possibly get a couple of extra points by either doing those college prep courses or by taking that test again, it can very well be worth it. I know someone who took the ACT 3 times because she needed 1 more point to get an additional $1,000 scholarship. So it was worth it to her to spend that money to take the test multiple times. Your essay is also important. I say this, tongue-in-cheek, but truthfully, parents do not write your student's essay. College admissions counselors say to us frequently, we can tell an essay that was written by the student versus an essay written by the parents. And make sure that your essay is original and it's from your student. Many admissions offices will also run that essay through Turnitin, which is a service that looks for plagiarism or any content that's not original. So make sure that that essay is about your student. And then your interests. So make sure that those extracurricular activities are related to or in some way support your student being successful in college. So you want to make sure that you're really focusing on those things that mean the most to your student and they're passionate about. We've heard often that we would rather see a student who's committed in one, maybe two areas and spend their time and energy there versus someone who in their last year joins 4 or 5 different clubs and does an hour a week. You know, we're not looking for quantity, but rather the quality of the work that they're doing outside of class. All right, so social media. I know as parents you're probably, hitting this message hard, but make sure that anything that's on the student's social media is a positive reflection of them. In just the last couple of days, Harvard rescinded admission to over 10 students based on things they saw in social media accounts. So it is absolutely important that your student reflect positively on all of their social media. Can you imagine working hard and getting admitted to Harvard and then having your admission rescinded because of something on social media? It definitely can happen. So cautionary tale there. Also, be honest when you're completing your applications. If you had something happen, maybe your sophomore year, you got arrested or you got suspended, just be honest and upfront and use your essay to explain what you learned from that experience, how you're doing things differently. So be upfront about any of those things that you might see as something of a challenge, but the admissions offices know that things happen and it's how people react and move forward from that. So don't let that be a deterrent for you. And then once you're accepted, make your other colleges aware. So you had those 3 colleges that you were looking at. You make a final decision for one. You're going to notify them that you're going to be attending. The other 2 that you had applied to, make them aware so that they know that me, who's on the waiting list, can now be admitted. So that is a great benefit for me. But also, they may have had funds for financial aid set aside for you that they now can award to someone else. So the earlier you make your decision and the earlier you notify those other colleges, the better, because that's going to help someone else. And it's a good thing to do. So let's look at what it's going to cost to attend school. The first item here is that this is prepared by the College Board. So they're the organization that creates and manages the SAT. For this academic year, they're estimating a public 2-year school, the average is $17,000 a year. And for your private 4-year school, it can be almost $50,000 per year. Now these are averages, so in certain parts of the country it might be more or less, but in any case, it's a significant amount of money. So you want to make sure you plan as wisely as possible and really think about not just this 1-year cost, but you want to have in mind the 4-year, the 5-year potentially cost so that when you're making your decisions, factoring that in so that you're not left your senior year scrambling, trying to come up with the resources to finish at that particular school. So let's look at the financial aid that you could possibly see as you apply to these schools, and they're going to be sending you information about their award to you. So this is what's going to happen. You're going to visit the FAO and talk to the FAA to determine the COA, and then it's time to complete the FAFSA. As soon as you receive your STAR, you'll know your EFC, and then the school is going to get an ISIR and send you an award letter. That's exactly how it happens. You're like, what? I have no idea what you're talking about. You're speaking another language. Well, this is the language of financial aid. And so what this actually means is you're going to visit the financial aid office, talk to the financial aid administrator to determine your cost of attendance, and it's time to complete the FAFSA, that free application for federal student aid. Once your FAFSA has been completed, you will receive a student aid report that will come directly to you at the email address that has been provided, and then your college admissions office, financial aid office will also receive an institutional student information record, that ISER, and it's going to have all of the same information that you provided on your FAFSA. It's provided to them so that they can then build your award letter and determine what type of aid they're able to offer you. So the FAFSA is critically important. I sometimes hear families say, well, we're not going to do the FAFSA because we know we make too much money. We're not going to get anything. You really still need to complete the FAFSA. A lot of financial aid management systems, the systems that they're using to or in an automated way build award letters, make institutional awards or state awards, unless you complete the FAFSA, you're not going to exist in that system, usually until much later on in the process. So by filling out the FAFSA, you are also putting yourself in contention for some of that state or institutional aid at a lot of colleges, but also there are low-cost federal loans that you are eligible to receive regardless of family income, and you're only able to take advantage of those if you've completed the FAFSA. So the FAFSA really is for everyone. The other thing I would highlight here for you is to make sure you're on the official FAFSA website. Just like with scholarships, unfortunately, there are lots of scam sites about, we'll help you with your FAFSA, or we'll do your FAFSA for you for a small fee of $200. The FAFSA is free. That's the first name in the description. It's the free application. So make sure you're at that .gov site and not paying anything to complete your FAFSA. So the types of aid that can be awarded based on the results of your FAFSA are listed for you here, and we'll really give some additional information about each of these. So the FAFSA will begin, it's open October 1st. So October 1st of that high school junior's academic career, that's when you're going to fill out the FAFSA so that you're in contention for any of those scholarships, grants, federal aid that's available. You submit it right online at the official FAFSA ed.gov site, and you're going to receive your results electronically. There is a paper application. We really do not recommend it. It adds a significant amount of time for you and for your school. If you're at all able to do it online, we highly encourage that. And you're going to do this process each and every year. So you're going to make sure that you're completing it as soon as you possibly can, as close to that October 1st deadline. So you're going to need an additional resource when you complete your FAFSA. So you're going to be on the official FAFSA website, and then you're going to need a federal student aid ID, an FSA ID. So you're going to apply for that, and it will be sent to you. The slide says 3 days to confirm for your FSA ID. Honestly, they're much faster. The most I've ever seen it take is 2 days, but sometimes you want to be prepared. If you have a deadline that you know you have to meet, make sure you get that FSA ID in time so that when you're ready to go online and complete your FAFSA, you have it. You wouldn't want to miss the deadline for a scholarship waiting for your FSA ID. If you have multiple children who are going to be going to college at the same time, you do need a separate ID for each student. So this is the timing for each of the FAFSA submissions. So you can see for the upcoming academic year, July 1st through June 30th of 2018, you're going to be using your 2015 tax return. So it's the prior year tax return. And we'll talk about how that can make some impact. But the purpose for that is that by using your prior year's taxes, as soon as October 1st rolls around, you have that tax return done and you're able to submit your information right away for the FAFSA. In years past, it wasn't open until January and you had to use that year's tax return, so many families missed the deadline because they hadn't yet done their taxes. So it is a prior year's tax return that you'll be using. So your FAFSA, once submitted and completed, is going to take 2 to 3 weeks to process if you're doing that online version. As mentioned in our funny little slide, you're going to get your student aid report, and that's going to summarize all of the information that you submitted as you completed the FAFSA. This is your opportunity to go back and check. So maybe there was a decimal point that was one number over, and that can make a significant difference. So double check. You'll see line by line everything you submitted will be confirmed. So you want to make sure that everything went in accurately. At the same time that you're getting your student aid report, the Department of Education is then sending that same information in that informational student institutional student information record to the school. So you can indicate up to 10 schools that you want to receive your information so that they can then build an award letter for you. And then again, it's just that same summary of the information that you provided to them. Just a little side note, the expected family contribution sometimes can be a wild and crazy number. Don't let that throw you off. That sometimes goes into different financial aid management systems and gets altered. So just don't panic when you see that number, because sometimes it's a very high one. So this is a visual of what the process looks like. You're going to do your FAFSA. It gets submitted to the Department of Education. You're receiving the SAR. The school is receiving the ICER. From that, they're going to build the award letter and send it to the student, and then they're going to review those award letters to make their final decision and then notify anybody that they're not going to be attending. So this is sometimes hard for parents to hear, but the award letter will be sent to the student. So oftentimes parents are like, well, hey, I'm the one paying for this. Why is the student getting the award letter? Because in most cases they're 18, and for privacy, the student will be receiving that award letter, and then they are going to make decisions. Once you receive your award letter, the award letter is going to outline, first, the financial aid will give any free money, grants, scholarships, then they'll award the lowest cost loans, and then there might be a balance that is still due that they're not able to cover with other types of financial aid. And then that's where you're going to look at some of these other options to cover that remaining balance. And that remaining balance is frequently referred to as the gap. So if you hear that term, that's what it's referring to. So scholarships and grants, we talked about this a little bit earlier. Make sure that you, when you receive your award letter, usually there's a checkbox or something to indicate, yes, this is part of the award that I want to accept. You're obviously going to accept all of those scholarships and grants because they are free money. Caveat to that, make sure that you're willing to meet the obligations. So I know of a student who was awarded a baseball scholarship, but he had practices, travel games, you know, a lot of time commitment in order to be on the baseball team. And because of that, he really wasn't academically successful. And so he ended up, you know, dropping off of the baseball team to really focus on academics. So you just really have to know, you know, am I able to handle this responsibility and my regular college coursework? So think about that as well. And that's just mentioned here. The other part that you want to look at, so we know on the freshman award letter, you're going to see all those grants and scholarships listed. You want to find out, is this renewable or is this only for my freshman year? So a scholarship that's renewable, you know, you can multiply that by 4 and you're really getting a significantly higher amount of money. In practice, Many financial aid offices will bulk up the freshman award letter knowing that they're not going to be able to award as much the sophomore, junior, senior year. So think about that. Ask your financial aid office when you're doing your comparison shopping if it is renewable or what the chances are that the student is going to be able to get that again the next year. One of the other things, too, I would encourage you to do is you might look at, as you're looking at colleges, a high-cost private, and see a cost of attendance of almost $50,000 and think, oh my gosh, I'm not even going to apply because there's no way that our family could afford to pay that for 4 years. My recommendation is apply and submit your financial information from the FAFSA, because many private colleges will have significant amounts of institutional money. So while the upfront cost might be higher, they may have more money available for grants or scholarships. So you want to apply to those schools that you're really interested in, and then wait for the award letters and do a true side-by-side comparison. Because what may look like it's out of the realm of possibilities, depending on the type of aid awarded, very well could be in contention. So don't discount, any schools until you really do the research and investigate and see what's available. So beyond those scholarships, which I know you'll all be actively pursuing those, there are grants that are available through the federal government. When you complete your FAFSA, if you are eligible for these grants, they'll be awarded to you by the financial aid office. So the first is the federal Pell Grant, and this is based on financial need. So there's a formula that the Department of Education puts forward, and it says if your family meets this minimum income level, then you would be awarded the federal Pell Grant. For the next academic year, it's $5,920, so a significant aid for those families that are able to receive it. The Iraq and Afghanistan Service Grant, that's for the students of service members who died as a result of one of those two conflicts. In addition, there's the Federal Supplemental Educational Opportunity Grant. This is made available to students that also qualify for the federal Pell Grant. So if you're not awarded a federal Pell Grant, then you would not be eligible for the Federal Supplemental Educational Opportunity Grant either. Those two are in tandem. And then the TEACH Grant. So this is for those who are going to be going into the field of teaching. There's an agreement that you're going to work for some certain number of years and work in certain school districts or areas. If you do not meet those criteria, that grant then becomes a loan and has to be repaid. So you'll be disclosed if you're awarded a TEACH grant that you're eligible for this, but keep in mind if you don't meet the criteria, then it's going to convert to a loan. Work study. This is, I think, one of the best kept secrets in financial aid. So not all colleges participate in the federal work study program. If your college does, I highly recommend you take advantage. I know some people immediately think of a cafeteria line, the students in a hairnet and they're slopping mashed potatoes onto some other student's tray. That's not what it's like. Most of the jobs for work study are within the academic department. So you might work, at a front desk, answering phones. You might work in the library, putting books back on the shelf. The great thing about that is you're going to get to know the professors in that department. You're going to get to know what happens for those people who are working in the field that are still connected with the university. So you could start getting some, people in industry that you have connections with that can help you find a job later. So if you're awarded federal work study, I highly recommend that you really do pursue it because it's a great way to stay connected on campus. And if you're able to get a job within the department that you're studying, that's phenomenal. Just a side note, if you're the federal work study for the financial aid office, they'll take care of you. They take care of their own. If there's any money available, work study students are frequently the recipients. So think about that. The Perkins loan, this is a low-cost federal loan. It's awarded based on the FAFSA. Again, the student receiving this would have to have financial need. It is a loan in the student's name, but it's got a great interest rate. It's only 5%. It's fixed. They have 10 years to pay it back, and there's a 9-month grace period after they leave school in which they don't have to make payments. This is a loan that the government subsidizes the interest. So they're going to pay the interest on that loan for the student while they're in school and for the 6 months after they leave school. You can see the maximum amount to repay is $5,500. This is just like federal work study, not available at all campuses. But for those campuses that do participate, you're generally going to be repaying their university directly. So they manage this loan program, and you'll repay them directly. But a nice loan product if you're eligible to receive it and the school participates. The most common lower cost federal loan is the direct loan. And this is available to everyone. So if Bill Gates had a son or daughter and they completed the FAFSA, if Bill did, then his son or daughter could receive the direct loan. It's not income contingent. So those students who are awarded the federal direct loan are going to be receiving a very attractive interest rate. The rate here listed 3.76 is good until June 30th. There is a planned slight increase in that rate coming for July, but nothing's formal yet, so do be aware of that. The other piece is that if the family is identified to have financial need, then the government will pay the interest on the loan for the student while they're in school and for the 6-month grace period that applies to this one. So another subsidy available for the direct loan. The direct loan limits are here. So as a freshman student, the most you would be eligible to borrow is $5,500. If that family had financial need, then $3,500 of the $5,500 would have the interest subsidy. And you can see the loan amounts increase as they progress through school. I'm sure all of you out there are thinking, well, how do I get those independent student levels? Those are only available if the student is married, active duty military, have dependent children of their own, at least 24 years old, an emancipated minor, declared homeless by their high school. There's a list of very specific criteria that have to be met in order to borrow at that independent student level. So just realize the vast majority of students are going to fall in that dependent student loan limit. So again, just taking that value-based approach, you want to have all of your grants, scholarships, any tuition discounting, take advantage of those cheap loans, the direct loan, the Perkins loan that we mentioned, and then we're still going to need to fill that gap piece of the financing. So how can we do that? Well, let's take a look at a real-life example. So congratulations, your student's going to University of Success. The cost of attendance determined by the university is $20,000. You've received $10,000 on your award, so you still have $10,000 that you need to meet. So how are we going to do that? Well, the first thing we're going to do is we're going to try and eat down some of that $10,000. So what can we save to help, not have to pay that full $10,000? So we're going to look at what are our fixed costs versus what's flexible. So let's see an example of that. Appeals, as shown here, if because you're using a prior tax return, your financial situation has significantly changed, you may want to appeal your award. These are some of the reasons that a financial aid office would consider an appeal. Generally, you'll go to that school's financial aid website. There'll be information on how to appeal. Oftentimes, it's an online form that you submit. And then a counselor will call you and they'll talk about your situation and then request some supporting documentation to show what has changed since that tax return was completed. So that's the appeal process. And now let's look at those fixed and flexible costs. So we know that tuition and fees are set. So the university sets those. There's no wiggle room on those. You know that you have to pay those tuition and fees. So whether your student uses the gym, they still have to pay the $75 gym fee to have access to the university gym. So those you really don't have any ability to make changes to. But your flexible costs, which are almost $11,000, you can do some things. So in this scenario, the student, rather than living in a dorm with one roommate, maybe they need to room with two roommates and reduce their rent by $1,000. Food, we don't want them eating ramen every day, so we're not going to touch their food budget. Books, lots of opportunity to save money on books. When your student gets to campus, there are lots of book exchange sites. They can look at buying a digital copy so they can have it downloaded to their laptop or an e-reader so that they don't have to buy the physical book, which is significantly more costly. So look for ways to save money there. And then your personal expenses, you know, maybe instead of 3 lattes a week, you go down to 1 latte a week, those sorts of things. And then your transportation. Those are usually pretty minimal costs as determined by financial aid, so we're going to leave those as they are. So you can see we've eliminated a significant amount of that $11,000. So now our total cost, instead of being $20,000, are $17,750. We've got our award for $10,000. So now instead of coming up with $10,000, we only need to come up with $7,750. By reducing that amount by $2,250 a year, you're going to save over $9,000 over a college career in interest charges if you don't have to borrow that money. So a little bit of savings over the 4 years adds up to a significant amount of money. So pinch your pennies, live like a college student while you're in college so that you don't have to live like that forever afterwards. Tuition payment plans, I think this is the best kept secret on campus. Make sure you find out if your campus offers a tuition payment plan. So of that $7,750, a tuition payment plan will allow you to make those payments over a 10-month period generally. So you're going to pay a small administration fee, usually $50 to $75, and then you can make payments on that $7,750 over the 10 months of the academic year, interest-free. So if you have the ability, pay everything with a tuition payment plan. Many families will say, okay, great, $7,750, that's $775 a month. Eek, no way could we pay that. You're not required to pay the full amount. So if your budget would allow you to pay $200 a month, pay the $200 a month on the tuition payment plan, and then that reduces that total amount as well that you're going to have to look for other sorts of financing. So it's really like an interest-free loan for a very small administrative fee. Other things to consider to help fill that funding gap, if you have those 529 plans, many families will use home equity, the PLUS loan, which is also available through the federal government, or private education loans. Do your research. So if you still have a balance to pay, look at your cash options that you could use, your 529s, those tuition payment plans as you go through. But if you're going to have to get a loan to finance the rest, look at both the federal and the private options and look at what's best for your family situation. The nice thing about the award letter is it's your option to pick and choose what you want to accept and what you prefer to do on your own. So if you think, well, my student is going to get an extra part-time job for that loan that's been awarded, you can reduce that loan amount and factor in what you think they're going to be making in earnings. If you want more information, I would really encourage you to visit the Dupaco Student Choice website. You can find under that Plan for College tab a wealth of resources. The other thing there is please, please, please get your students to sign up for iGrad. It's in that Plan for College drop down, and once they sign up, they'll continue to receive information that's relevant from high school, how do I pick that good college, to when they're ready to graduate college, what are some resume writing tips. It's very interactive. The content is designed to take only 5 to 6 minutes at best to be completed, and it's used on many college campuses across the country. So you'll be at an advantage when you get to campus and your student already has access to iGrad. This is the type of information that you're going to find in iGrad. And again, it's customized. So when your student signs up, they're going to fill out a profile about themselves. Based on that profile, iGrad will suggest content to help them along. Also, let's say they go in and want to get some information on getting a credit card. Like, oh no, we maybe don't want that. But it will also say, well, hey, you know you're interested in a credit card. What do you think this will do as an impact to your credit score? So it helps them just be financially savvy and gather information around making good financial decisions.
Okay, and then Dupaco also has on their website our Learning Center, and this is a place where you have tips and tools on budgeting, money management, credit scores, identity theft. There's calculators out there, different life events and what to do during those life events, and we also have our daily blog that provides lots of great information with what's going on in the marketplace today. So thank you, Denise. This is a lot of great information that you provided with us today. Before we get to the questions, I wanted to let you know before you log off or when the webinar ends, a survey will pop up. We would appreciate it if you would take a minute to complete this. Your feedback will help us continue to improve the education we provide to our members. So let's just check and see if we have any questions, or if you do have any questions, you can certainly use that toolbar to go ahead and type those in, and we can have Denise answer those as they come in. Okay, it doesn't look like we have any questions. We will also have handouts on our website, and you're happy to log in and read those or print them out at your leisure. We do appreciate your attendance today. Thank you, Denise, and everyone have a great day.
Thank you.